talk to you about curls that have volume. So the first technique was no volume. Now I have 2 ways to make volume in the curls. So you're practicing the same technique, which is going through row by row, taking sections and spraying before you curl, or spraying a whole section, combing through and then curling for longer hold. So we're doing the same technique, but we're holding the curling iron a different way. So technique number 1 for creating volume is by holding the curling iron in a different direction, like I just said. So what you're gonna do is comb through, same way, and this time, instead of holding the curling iron vertically, you're gonna hold it horizontally. So I'm still going through halfway, and I'm still rolling it and walking the hair through, but this time I'm holding the curling iron horizontally and rolling it up towards the scalp. So I still did the same technique where I'm walking the hair through and I'm holding it up high. So I'm pulling the hair up a little bit and holding it close to the scalp, and then I'll let it go. So this gives more lift right at the root as you work. So you can see I have a little bit more lift up here. So depending on how you hold your curling iron will help you determine the shape of your curls. So again, I'm holding the hair up, going halfway through, and walking it through again. So this way, I get more lift and boost at the root as I'm curling. So that heat concentrated right there with the hair coming up and over the curling iron is what gives it that lift. So it just gives more of a lift on the side here. So you see how that's kind of bumped out? That's what you'll get if you go through and hold the curling iron in that direction. So you can go through and do that all the way in each row, and that just gives more lift. So if you're working with someone who says, I want a lot of volume in my curls, then you're gonna go through and do this technique by holding it up high. Now, if you want to have volumized curls that last, you're gonna go through and do the same technique that I just said, but this time you're gonna do pinning. So, as with the curls that have no volume, you're gonna go section by section, and rather than going on this, holding the curling iron in this direction, you're gonna hold the curling iron up like this, just like I said, and once again, wrapping it, and holding it close to the scalp, making sure it's hot, and then I'm gonna release the curling iron, the curls into my hand, like this, and then I'm gonna do the same thing where I'm pinning, but this time I'm not pinning the curls sideways, I'm pinning them curled up and under. So it goes up and under like that. Rather than to the side, it's going up and under. So I will go through and set the hair, and what I mean by set is set it with these pin curls all the way throughout. So each one of these, I will roll up or dump from my curling iron and pin right on the base, just like that. So that's how I will create maximum volume on a more traditional curl and make sure it lasts a long time. Now the last way to create a lot of volume as you do these curls is by using a little bit of backcombing. So let me show you how I would do that. So let's take down another section here. We're working our way to the top, people. All right, so I'm taking down my section, and I'm going to use the same technique where I'm just taking small sections at a time. So the way you determine the size of your sections is by how much hair they have. So if they have really, really thick hair, you want to take smaller sections because you need that hair to be evenly dispersed in your curling iron to get the heat to hold. If you take a section, curl it, let it go, and it really falls, then you know that you've taken too much hair. So take smaller sections. And also, if it falls right away, that's a key sign to you that you probably want to do a set and pin it up to hold. Okay, that was a side note. All right, so now I'm going to go through and show you how I would do it for backcombing. So we're going to do the same thing where we're taking these sections and combing through. Now, you want to use a little bit of your texture spray to really lock in the backcombing. So I'm going to spray little texture spray at the root, and then I'm going to backcomb. So I'm backcombing gently at the root. Now in this backcombing section, I am not starting at the middle of the hair and brushing down, because that will create frizz all the way through. All I'm doing is backcombing about an inch off the head, and I'm doing a tight backcomb. So what I mean by that is I'm gonna hold the hair relatively tight. I'm gonna put my comb in and push as I pull away on the rest of the hair. And that is a tight backcomb. And you can see how it creates that lift. Now, when I go through with my curling iron, so I'm doing the volumizing technique, which means I'm holding this curling iron horizontally, walking the hair through. I'm holding it close to the scalp and it's right on that back combing. So the curling iron is heating the back combed hair. And then I can either release the hair like this, and you can see that I have a lot of nice volume, or you can also pin it up. So releasing it into my hand and then pinning it for extra long hold. But if you do this all the way through, you're gonna get nice, voluminous curls throughout the whole thing. So this is where you wanna come back to the basics in the beginning, where you check in with your bridesmaid or your bride before you start, and you ask what kind of curls, what kind of look that they're looking for. If they say, I want big voluminous curls that are lots of volume, then you wanna do a backcombing at the base to get that look. This also really helps to hold the curl and make sure that it lasts longer as well. If they don't want any volume at all, you can skip the backcombing and you just do like we did in the first section, where we just did a more traditional curl. So that's how I would lock in a lot of volume with these traditional curls. Now, the same thing goes for the style of curl that you want when you backcomb or not, as far as breaking them up. If you want to have curls that stay intact, then you don't want to touch them. You just backcomb, curl, let them go, let them stay. If you want to have more of a broken up look, then you would come through and break up the curls with the little bit of serum or curl cream on your fingers and break them up as you go. So you can curl them and then break up the curls, and then once they're broken up in the way that you like, you finish with the flexible hold hairspray and then move on to the next section. And then typically you're not going to want to brush through hair that you've already backcombed. So if they want a softer look with a lot of volume to it, I would brush through with a paddle brush, but not as vigorously as I did when I didn't have any backcombing in, because I don't want to comb out that backcombing. You could just go through with your paddle brush and brush through the ends, and that way it will still have some of the volume in the roots, but you'll be able to kind of brush through and smooth those ends. One last tip for these traditional curls is you want to just make sure that you're not touching them too much, because that's what makes them frizzy. So make sure if you're touching them, you have some product on your fingers, and you want to just make sure you're taking small enough sections so that the curl really holds and the heat can be dispersed enough through each section of hair. So like I've talked about in some other videos, trial and error kind of comes with the first layer. So if I'm kind of unsure of how long I need to hold, if I need to set it or not, I will kind of experiment with that on my person, my bride or my bridesmaid, on the first layer. So you can tell right away as you start going, this curl is gonna hold, or I'm gonna need to use some extra hairspray on this one. Just make sure you're always combing through your hairspray. If you hairspray and then curl, you're gonna get a crispy curl, and that is just not that cute. So make sure you're combing through to disperse that hairspray before you curl up. And then once you finish with a flexible hold hairspray, don't touch the curl again. Just lay the curls over the ones underneath them and then move on to the next section without touching them. And that will create really nice, soft, beautiful curls that aren't frizzy. And my very last tip is that you can always loosen curls. So always err on the side of tighter curls in the beginning, because they will relax as the day goes on. And if your client does not like how tight they are, you can always bring them down. Bring them down by combing through with your fingers, by combing through with a paddle brush. You can't really get the curl tighter once you finish the whole thing. So err on the side of tighter. You can always loosen them up. That is my last tip for curls. So that is what I would do to create a maximum amount of volume, is I would do the back combing and do a good set on that if you want a lot of lift through the hair. That is my last tip for the traditional curls.